everyone. I'm Leah Secondo. Welcome to a special edition of Turf Talk presented by Longstreth. It's tournament time. Everybody's 0-0. It's the postseason. Nobody wants to leave this stage because if you leave this stage, it could be the final stage of your playing career or definitely the season. Tonight, I have some special guests joining me, my broadcast colleagues. First, we're going to start with Suzanne Bush. Suzanne's a former graduate at Louisville, Olympic broadcaster as well, 18 years of broadcast experience in field hockey. Suzanne, we're getting ready to start the ACCs, and thanks so much for joining us on what is like Christmas Eve for us in the postseason.
It really is. And thanks for having me, Leah. Excited to talk some shop tonight. It's going to be a fun one.
It is. Also joining us, broadcast colleague Kara Lentz. So good to see you, Kara. 18 years of broadcast experience as well, former standout at Michigan. We had the pleasure of working with each other Pac 12 days, which was really NORPAC, and also with the Big Ten Network. Kara, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Leah. It is the most wonderful time of the year, isn't it? This is the best part. As soon as it gets cold, we know we're in for some really stellar field hockey, right?
That's right, Rick. Get those hand warmers out for sure. So we start off here. Everybody expects a little bit of the collision course, right? Nobody's really talking about it, but they're talking about it with Northwestern and Carolina. They've done their work up to this point. What are some of your initial thoughts of this 0-0 season now and those two teams potentially meeting back up in Ann Arbor?
I think North Carolina is really hitting on all cylinders, specifically on attack. And you look at Northwestern, both teams undefeated going into their conference tournaments. Northwestern, I give a little bit of the edge to, only because they've got the best goalkeeper, in my opinion, in the country in goal. But North Carolina, Northwestern, respectively in their conferences, they've gotten the job done. They are really peaking at the right time and really hitting their stride. So, yeah, I think there are some other teams that could play factors, but I do think we are headed for that collision come Ann Arbor in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked with Tracy Fuchs last week leading up to the Ohio State game, and I said, is it too early to scout UNC? Like, how long have we been looking forward to this? Obviously, all these teams have to take care of business in the postseason. What I see from Northwestern is a beautifully designed schedule when it comes to their season. Tracy Fuchs has said it's the most difficult schedule that she's ever created. They did a big chunk of their work in the early part of the season, got in some really good non-conference regional games. And here they are being able to kind of maybe rest some players, put players in different positions before they go into the Big Ten tournament. They're deep. They're deep in each line and they're deep on their roster. That gives them the opportunity to have endurance for the postseason. I think the past couple of years have helped Northwestern design a national championship run. I have never seen Northwestern this season falter. I've always seen them put together a complete 60-minute game, but their biggest test is going to be right now as soon as November hits. And I agree with you, Suzanne. I think Annabelle Skubish is the best goalkeeper in the country. I think she might be the best player in the country, not just goalkeeper. I think she's definitely in that category. But I've had the opportunity to watch Northwestern a lot this season and cover them. And clicking on all cylinders as well. We're definitely in for a treat, I think, come late November. Yeah.
Got to keep that snow out of Ann Arbor, though.
Well, Marcia said that they have the budget approved now for all of the emergency processes.
Yeah, we had that. What was it? 2015 when Syracuse won 4-2, I think, over UNC. Was that the weekend?
It was before. What year was that? It may have been earlier than that, like 2013. They sold the blue turf.
Yeah, like they had to sew the turf up. That's right.
It was like a foot and a half of snow.
Lovely snowstorm. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about UNC. All right, Erin Matson comes away with Coach of the Year award in her second season at UNC, and granted, they had a big chunk of that offensive team back. Suzanne, the dynamic offense that this team has, how do you stop one bear, because it just seems like they just keep coming at you in different directions, and everyone is poised on the ball.
Well, and we see the accolades from Riley Heck. We see the numbers from Riley Heck. We see the numbers from Charlie Bruder. I mean, putting up just absolute gaudy numbers, but it's this support unit surrounding them too that makes them so threatening. They've got Sana Hawk. They've got Yasmina Smolinars that can thread the ball up on a dime. Like, they just don't have a weakness in open play. They have so many different looks and weapons. We've seen it all season long. It's like just when we think we know what they're going to do, specifically on the attack penalty corners, they throw somebody else in there and they get somebody else involved. And so it's been really quite fun to see how they've continued to manipulate their APCs, their attack. And, Kelly Smith, you just got a picture there of Kelly Smith getting her first goal this season. I mean, everybody's getting involved.
Right. So Kara, you see a lot of Ohio State, and I think right now with the way that the polls are, UVA and Ohio State have been there right neck and neck. Kara, some of your thoughts on Ohio State. Suzanne and I had an opportunity to see them very early, and we're very impressed against Syracuse. McKenna Webster is awesome. Just picked up her 100th career point.
Yep. I think as of today, if the season were to end, I think they're in. A lot of other people think that maybe they're on the inside looking out. So they're at the top of a lot of teams that are going to be considered for the tournament. I think they're safe. I think it's a definite if they get into the semifinals. But that's a lot going through the Big Ten tournament this year. Just getting to the semifinals, you're going up against top 10 teams, to even get into that consideration. I think that they have some special things happening. I went back and I looked at the game that they had against Northwestern, and they played really well. They played really well against the top team in the country, and they have a lot of special things happening with that team, but ultimately they're competitors. And I think come November, you kind of have that X factor, and they haven't made the tournament in a while. They have this whole theme this whole season about unfinished business, and they were like the first team out last year. So they come back this year and they have like a mission. And I think that speaks volumes to like having the mental toughness and like the intensity to get to the NCAA tournament. And McKenna Webster, she played 4 games last week. She had a Tuesday hockey game. She had a Friday field hockey game. She had a Saturday hockey game, and she had a Sunday field hockey game.
She's a real deal.
What?
Insane.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So, Suzanne, is that X Factor Abby Danson?
She has been exceptional in goal for Ohio State. I think what makes them special, though, to kind of piggyback on what Kara was saying and going back to McKenna Webster, yes, Abby Danson, to your question, I think has been one of the best keepers in the country. But I think we've talked about Northwestern and North Carolina and their ability to find the back of the goal. I put Ohio State up there as well. They can put up some gaudy numbers, as well as St. Joe's. Those are the 4 teams, in my opinion, that can go blow for blow with a Carolina and with a Northwestern. And so I think, we've talked about the keepers too, being able to keep the ball out of the goal. That's going to be a big piece too. And can Abby Danson help her squad? 100%.
Yeah, and I think that you start talking about jobs when they open up, and Hannah Prince has to be in the conversation pretty much with any big job that appears to be opening up. I think also Tara Zollinger, who is doing a great job at Chip. Yep. She could probably be in the conversation, but there's no doubt about it what Hannah's done at St. Joe's, and I know you guys have been alongside Hannah and watched her progression as well. Some of your thoughts on Coach Prince?
Yeah, I mean, I think, those people that you just, when you're in a room with them, you can feel their energy and it's contagious. Like you want to soak up all of the energy that Hannah Prince just exudes. And I know her players feel that and they radiate that as well. She is just exceptional to be around. I think she's done great things with the program, brought back her entire squad from last season. And so I think, they're going to be a big contender and a dark horse to go deep in this tournament. And it all comes from Hannah Prince and the energy that she brings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at the schedule for St. Joe's. I mean, like early season, regionally, look at where they are, right? But I mean, they have a tough schedule. And they took care of business really early. And I think that has enabled them to be in a position. Former teammate of mine, Beth Riley, who was one of the best goalkeepers in the nation when I played, is on the coaching staff as well. So I know they're well coached defensively, but you have to give a lot to the whole coaching staff. I mean, to be able to what they're doing, to be able to do what they're doing this year is incredible. And also, they earned it. They're going to play for that and want to make their way through the NCAA tournament. I agree with you, Suzanne. I think that's a dark horse to make it to the Final Four. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we move on now to let's talk a little Duke. They had some cuts on Friday night against UNC 5-2 to close out the season. But in talking with Pam Buston, she strong coach. She picked out some really good points that they were able to attack against UNC, and starting off fresh, they're pretty solid there, especially defensively. How do they get McVeigh a little bit more open and maybe get someone else involved offensively on the attack for them?
Well, I think Charlie Van Oorschot in the midfield is a huge piece of that. She provides a big piece of the transition. They've got a couple of key players that they need to get more involved. I mean, we've seen Elena McVeigh all season long, double teamed, triple teamed, still has 11 goals on the season. But to your point, Leah, who is going to be that number two? Who is going to help her and be able to really, give her some ability to be the finisher? It's going to be that off-ball movement, that transition piece. And I do think that Charlie Van Oorschot plays a critical role for the Blue Devils in moving that ball from the defensive side of it up to Elena McVeigh on the attack.
Well, and then we get to Maryland, right? Former ACC school. I don't care how many years have passed. It's still, you think about Maryland being in the ACC and those great days, with the rivalries against Carolina and everybody. But are they a little bit of a dark horse? They've shown promise, and they're kind of up and down. Kara?
Well, Maryland does really good at home. In the Big Ten tournaments in College Park at a brand new facility. You're not only talking about the possibility of Maryland winning the Big Ten tournament, but hosting in the first round of the NCAA tournament if they do, I think. They have a lot of gifted players. Josie Holloman, Hope Rose has won prolific recently. I think Alyssa Clavasco is also one of the top goalkeepers in the nation. The stats tell you different, but her in-game performance is really impressive. My favorite thing is when she actually goes out beyond the goal line on corners and stares down the offense. It's like this intimidation factor. Granted, she's analyzing it, but she's out there literally, putting on a game face. And I think there are key things that you need going into a postseason. Good goalkeeping, defense, the ability to score, and executing on your set pieces. Every single season, I think that's always been the case. Maryland is a tournament team. So I think if you look at them making a run in the NCAAs and the Big Ten, I think everything's lined up for them to start to move forward a lot. They've been tested a lot this season, but they have wonderful leadership and Rupta Burdine, who's an Olympian. They're well coached. They're well seasoned. They have a lot of experience. This is a Maryland team that I think is going to start to show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Suzanne, want anything on that one?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if we looked at Maryland at the very beginning of this season, we said, this is a team that is going to be in the top three all season long. And we've seen some dips in some of their performance. But, to your point, Kara, they're well coached and they're at home, which is huge for this tournament. So, it'll be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out.
So a lot of things have to happen correctly, and it's all about the bracket, right? And boy, wouldn't it be nice if Michigan gets to be on the right side of the bracket and gets to host. And I know, go blue, Kara, you're still thinking that, right? But it's not unrealistic.
It's not unrealistic. They're banged up. So Michigan's a little banged up injury-wise right now. I think you may have saw some of that fatigue in the game against Northwestern. No other team this season has played Northwestern as hard as Michigan did. But that's always going to be the case between Michigan and Northwestern. And this is a team, I think you're looking at Maryland or Michigan to probably make it through to the Final Four. But Michigan is, at this point, they're coming back from a lot of injuries, and they're using different people in places, and they need rest and all the recovery pieces. But at the end of the day, Michigan's a tournament team, especially when it comes to the history of the Big Ten tournament, which will help them, get beyond the Big Ten tournament into the NCAAs. At the end of the day, they're going to fight. They have really good defense. And one of the things I really love about the conference this year is the quality of the center midfielders and the midfield in general. Like, you have Abby Tamer, you got Aaron Riley, you have Laura Clark going up against some of the other top midfielders like in the country. I've loved to see these matchups throughout the course of the season. Brooke DeBurdine, another one of those. I mean, Lauren Wattis, like the list goes on. So I love some of the dynamic that's going on there in the midfield. Whoever shows up on game day, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be an absolute battle. But no, Michigan's they got a chip on their shoulder. They play blue collar hockey.
Another team that has a chip on its shoulder has to be Boston College. Kelly Doughton was not happy with the way that her team finished the season. She's, how Kelly is. She's fiery as fire can be. And they have certainly proven that this year. Obviously, Yanni Zhang, who's been exceptional. Peyton Hill, exceptional. The goalkeeping has been exceptional, recognized by the ACC this year as well. They could be a player. They've been in the top 10 all year. They could be a player to be there Final Four weekend.
Well, and Kara talked about midfielders and how much fun they have been to watch all season long. Ava Kluskens, Marty Hiacchino for BC, two of the best in the ACC. They are a huge piece. Obviously, we can talk all day about Yanni Zhang and how dynamic she is, also in the midfield. But, it all stems from Ava Kluskens and Marty Hiacchino and how they are able to transfer and transition that ball. To get Yanni Zhang involved in the play. And they have been really fun to watch. And when they are on, they are on. That's a fun team to watch.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Kira, you're seeing a lot of aerials this year. Suzanne and I were noticing it more, which is awesome because it opens up a whole dynamic to the game.
Yep. I think an underrated player in the country is Ilsa Trump, the center back for Northwestern. Following the Olympics, I tried to make a point of asking all of the coaches, hey, what's the biggest trend that you saw from the Olympics? Because about 4 years ago was how attack penalty corners are executed with like a little shift at the top of the circle. So there's always something coming out of the international stage. And they said the aerials, and also the way that it's being officiated now, it's giving an advantage to the attackers. It's a skill. It's a hard skill. I was never able to do aerials. Aerials are really hard. But if you can just, I think the most effective ones, if you can just throw it from line to line, it doesn't have to be to the forward line, but if you can just place it into the midfield line from the back line, even cross field, I mean, look at the advantage that gets you. And it's been impressive to see some of these aerials, the accuracy on the aerials.
Yeah.
One thing to pull it off, but another thing to actually place it in a playable area onto the stick of your teammate. It's been phenomenal to see develop all season.
Yeah, it has. It's totally been a lot of fun. We have to take a quick time out here on Turf Talk, but when we come back, Suzanne and Kara and I are going to take a look at some of the superlatives, some of our superlative crystal ball picks coming up for some of the big plays of the season, as well as we continue on here on Turf Talk. Stay with us. Talk. I'm your host, Leah Secondo, and I'm joined tonight by Suzanne Bush and Kara Lentz. Ladies, time now to look at some of our superlatives. We're going to start first with some of your guys' thoughts on who you think might be in the Final Four in that crystal ball, who you feel as though is on the outside looking in as we get set for the announcements on the 10th and the 11th for D2 and D3 as well, as we get set to go down that final road. I can't believe the season's wrapping up here. It's kind of crazy how quickly it flew by. So first, we start off, ladies, with your Final Four picks. Kind of similar there. As we go through just some of your thoughts on why you kind of selected these teams. And Kara, I have a second page for you on some of your teams that you kind of feel like are a little bit bubbly right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we've hit home Northwestern and North Carolina and what they bring to the table. I think without a doubt, we're going to see those two teams come Ann Arbor. I think St. Joe's and Michigan, even though now I kind of feel like after Kara's insight, I might need to re-swizzle a little bit. And I put on there number 5 and number 6, Ohio State and Duke, also good contenders to go deep in this tournament.
Yeah, I think the whole nation is wanting to see Northwestern UNC matchup. It kind of reminds me of NCAA lacrosse. Kelly Amonte Hiller went to Maryland. Northwestern never schedules Maryland regular season. You always have to wait for the postseason to see those two teams match up. I love what this rivalry how it's been created, and a young coach like Erin Matson and what she's been able to accomplish. And then you have Tracy Fuchs on the other side. I just love everything that it's evolving into. I would like to see that matchup. UVA's had a really hard schedule all season long. Ohio State, they're on a mission trip. They have a lot of work to do, though. I think to get past Northwestern in the Big Ten tournament, to even get to the NCAAs. And then you look at what's coming out of the Ivy League. I mean, Harvard and Princeton, they're going to have the hard track getting there too. But Harvard has been knocking on the door for years. They have a really difficult schedule. These are such hard questions, Leah. Like when you emailed us, I was like, you want me to do what?
There's a reason we're not on the committee. I don't envy
Exactly.
the committee at all putting together this bracket.
I'm like, drafting my email. I'm like, no, yes, no, no, yes. I don't know.
It is. I mean, it really is a crapshoot. It really is a crapshoot. And you guys both have Syracuse. Syracuse has shown at different times this season, boy, when they're on, they're on. And Suzanne, we had this conversation a little bit earlier. They were banged up early. I didn't realize Michigan was as banged up as you said, Kara. So, I mean, that certainly can play a factor for Syracuse on this run, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think Syracuse is in if they win this first round game against Virginia, but they haven't won against Virginia since 2015. So this is a really tough matchup for Syracuse. They have the ability and potential to do so if they play a full 60 minutes of hockey, but they're going up against, as we said, a tough Virginia team. But I think they do need to win this first round in order to get that at large, unless they win the ACC.
All right. So now we move on. We were at outside looking in. How about our Coach of the Year picks?
Yeah. I mean, Erin Matson talked about, what she's done with North Carolina in her second season. We've talked about Hannah Prince. I think Jared Martin has done an exceptional job at Ohio State. I really think he's kept his players. He's developed his players. They've been a fun team to watch evolve. And it goes to, what a great coaching job I think he's done.
And isn't that the mark of a good coach, is how you develop players over 4 years or more or less? I think that's always a stamp of a good coach. And I agree with you about Ohio State. Seeing just the mastermind of Tracy Fuchs, Will Byrne, Georgia Holland, and the thing that's been most impressive about that coaching staff is the consistency that they've built in the program from year to year to year to year. and then throughout the course of the season. And that's the main reason why I would pick NU to definitely earn coaching year of the war. Erin Matson in her second year, undefeated and doing what North Carolina does, you're talking about one of the greatest of all time in the sport, playing and coaching. It's incredible to see what Erin Matson has done. And also look at recruiting, what she's able to do from a recruiting perspective. I think you're drawing in the top recruits every single season. And she keeps players for 4 years. She develops players. That whole program keeps players for, until graduation. And then St. Joe's, it's awesome to see what they've been able to do this year.
So our Player of the Year award, boy, we can go in a lot of directions. Obviously, Sessa and Heck stand out, right? But you can make a case for at least 6 or 7 players, and I don't recall in a very long time where we've had that number of players that could potentially be in consideration. And in Annabelle Scobish, why not, right? Why not?
Yep, 100%. And if I had known I could put UNC crew, I would have done that too. As you said, there Maddie Zimmer, another one, just so dynamic and strong on ball and fun to watch. There is a lot of players. I think in the past couple of years we've seen 1 or 2 players and we know, it's going to be either so-and-so or so-and-so. This year, there are 5 or 6 you could make a case for that are having exceptional years.
Yeah. Yeah. This is such a hard question to answer. I don't know. And then I'm trying to go through my head and determine, okay, what's the criteria? Because I think it's subjective, and I'm a defender, so I don't like to always give credit to the forwards who scored the most points in the season. So what I looked at with this was who is the biggest playmaker, and that's where Ashley Sessa stands out. Her defensive presence on the press, the way she comes away with turnovers, she's selfless with the ball, she's diving it's an all-around player. Maddie Zimmer is the same. So I think both of those players stood out to me because they're playmakers. And then when you look at UNC, you have a lot of players there in the midfield that are doing a lot of the unsung work. Like when you see Dixon working in the midfield and you're watching her off ball, she's all over the field. And then Riley Heck, she's a playmaker. She is creative with the ball, and seeing her perform in the national championship last year, that's a gamer.
Yeah.
She's a total gamer. So this was such a difficult question to answer. I agree with you, Suzanne. There's top 5, 7 players that are in consideration here. And this is their biggest stage to shine. So we're going to see what's going to unfold.
Mm-hmm. Our final superlative is goalkeeper of the year. And you could certainly make a case for any of these young ladies. No doubt about it. We've talked about Danson and Scobish as well. But I'm kind of surprised. I shouldn't say I'm surprised. The level that Annabelle has brought her game year in and year out from that UConn final at UConn in the freezing cold temperatures to last year at UNC and to what she has done this year is just crazy off the charts.
Yeah, I think
I would think she would have the edge, right?
Yeah, so cerebral in her approach. Obviously she's got the gift of athleticism in goal, but her commitment to the mental side of it, you can just see everything clicking and building. And her international experience as well has just elevated her game in the off season as well with Team USA. So yeah, she's been fun to watch.
I think you nailed it, Suzanne. Cerebral, and that's something that she's developed every single year. Granted, she's a Northwestern player, so she's got the smarts, but to see her elevate her game, to be put in the big game situations, and to see her perform in there has really been a delight to watch. I think she's up there for player of the year. It's not just goalkeeper. I think she's definitely in contention for player of the year, in my personal opinion. But she's got, she's been to the big stage a couple of times now. I know she wants to finish her career as a fifth-year senior. There's a whole group of fifth-year seniors with that group that want to bring home another title to Evanston. And then, it's seeing the goalkeeping in the Big Ten has been really excellent this year. Abby Danson is very similar to Skeevish in the sense of how tall and athletic they are. But seeing the skill set that these goalkeepers use for any one save, it blows my mind. Like kick save, block save, stick save, how athletic they are in the net. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in national field hockey. I really don't.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we're going to look at some of the top high school plays in the country here on Turf Talk. Stay with us. Welcome back to Turf Talk. Each week on the show, we take a look at some of the country's best high school plays. If you're interested in having your high school play considered, remember you can always submit it to admin@maxfieldhockey.com. You'll then find your play on all the social media platforms that Longstreth has. Right now, though, let's take a look at some of the top high school plays of the week. Welcome back to Turf Talk. Leah Secondo, Suzanne Bush, Kara Lentz, field hockey aficionados for the college game around the country. And ladies, so glad to spend time with you tonight talking hockey as we lead up to the conference championships. We'll have the announcements coming up this weekend for the selection shows, which will be fun also in D2 and D3. Some of your final thoughts here as we wrap up and rev up towards for D1 in Ann Arbor coming up the 22nd through the 24th.
Man, so many thoughts. I'm excited. I think there is some parity, more so than we've seen in the past. I think we've got some dark horses that have the potential to make deep runs. I do think we're going to see Northwestern and North Carolina come at November 22nd. But we'll see if, who those other two teams are. I do think, there are some teams that could make some big waves. I'm excited to see kind of how it all shakes out.
Agreed. Totally excited. I do have a question for you guys in return. I've been making this shocker.
Is it spelled swag? No, I'm just kidding.
How is your swag going, Leah? I see you guys a long time.
She's all about the swag.
Where should
Gotta represent, man.
Where should I send my appearance invoice to? So, what specifically going into the ACC tournament or maybe the NCAA tournament matchups, like goalkeeping or midfield play or forward play or defense? Like, what are maybe some top, 2 or 3 tactics or matchups that you're looking for?
Go ahead, Suzanne.
That's a great question. I think anybody matching up defensively against a North Carolina is going to have to bring their best of the best for a full 60 minutes. It was fun to watch Duke and North Carolina go head to head on Friday night. You look at the stats. Yes, you might look at the scoreline and say it was 5-2, but we felt like it was much more even. And so I think, I don't know about 1 or 2 key points, but I do think that's going to be a fun matchup. I mean, Duke bringing a fantastic defense, North Carolina bringing a lights out attack. There's something about a good defensive clash against a great offensive team. So those kinds of games are always really fun to watch.
Yeah, and the interesting point of it too is that a team as good as UNC is, they will sting you with any error. We were watching teams work on their corners today.
Yep.
And we're just, kind of looked at each other with our eyes, got a little wider. If you're not making that stop up top on that free opportunity, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I think those moments could be the glaring moments for somebody if they don't execute properly throughout this week, for sure.
Yeah. It's a well-oiled machine, UNC.
It is.
Always have been. But yeah, I was curious about that because, you guys are in depth with all these teams throughout the course of the season. So I was just wanting to know what eye I should turn toward when I'm watching it and see how this kind of unfolds.
Well, I think the best part is we're always watching each other, and the fun part of it is we're always kind of texting each other saying, "Oh, did you see that? You see that?" And that helps us help each other, helps grow the game, which is, the big picture. That's what it's all about. Ladies, that's going to wrap up this edition of Turf Talk. But you got to promise me you'll be back. We'll do this again. Your expertise, your knowledge of the game, and what you can share with our viewers is priceless. So I really appreciate you guys. Lancy, miss you. Hopefully we'll catch up with you down the road so you can finally meet Suzanne in person. I can do the official handshake.
Yeah, well, Ann Arbor's right in my backyard, but I'll be down in Gaffney, South Carolina. So I honestly wish I could come out for the championship weekend and give you guys a good tour of Ann Arbor. But we'll have.
So what you're saying is you're gonna let us be cold, and you're like, peace out. I'm going to the warmth.
That press box is exposed. There are parts of the press box that are exposed. So I would.
Noted.
I
yeah. Definitely
insider tip.
Definitely noted. Well, finish strong, Kara. We'll catch you down the road. Suzanne, we'll be catching you throughout the week here. And thanks so much again for taking your guys' time, especially when it's study time, to join me on Turf Talk.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We appreciate you too. And so that wraps up another edition of Turf Talk presented by Longstreth. Join us again next time. In the meantime, continue to grow the game of field hockey. So long, everyone.